Hey, coming up on Guys Talking Sports, we talk about the Flake game, the Ray Rice situation now that the charges have been dropped on this domestic violence case. As well, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. We're going to talk about everything as far as the NBA playoffs is concerned, the people that left, the teams that left, and the teams that were eliminated. We're going to talk about all that. My guest host, Earl Ross, joins me next, and that's on Guys Talking Sports. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Al Qualls, host of Guys Talking Sports. This is Guys Talking Sports. And to everybody that said, with the comments about last week's show and everybody that subscribed, I'd like to say from sincerity, thank you very much. Today I got my guest host with me, Earl Ross, and we're just going to go ahead and start talking. So, Earl, what's going on, man? How you doing, man?
What's going on, big time? How's it going?
It's going, man. I guess we should just start off talking in regards to I know we talked last week about the whole Deflategate, but I never got your take on it. So what is your take on the whole Deflategate situation? And then we'll continue on to other topics. I mean the other sports topics, but I just want to get your take on Deflategate.
Not for my personal opinion. I mean, it's, clearly something was done. Clearly, in my opinion, I think Tom Brady was aware, if not to the point of how much the balls are being deflated. I'm pretty sure that he at least was, in the know to a certain degree what was going down. And so then he's trying to, act like, okay, well, I didn't know, nothing is wrong. And now when the Willis report comes out and kind of, probes, the text messages going back and forth, the name of the person who allegedly went into the bathroom for a certain amount of time and deflated, the actual balls comes up to the deflator, up until that point, it's a lot of circumstantial evidence. And of course, no one's seen Tom Brady do it or necessarily say it, but, it's probable cause that he probably at least was in the know. So he got the 4-game suspension. It'll probably get reduced down to probably 2 with an appeal. But to me, it's like, I mean, this is the Patriots' MO. I mean, this is what they do. I mean, they, Spygate, if you want to call that, Deflategate. I think, the $1 million fine, the losing of picks, all that stuff was probably just, because of what happened in the past, and they kind of gave him a slap on the wrist, gave him a break by actually burning the tapes back then. But now it's just like, we gave you a break, we got to do something to you now because, this is creating a competitive advantage. And so, I mean, you can do some things, and you can be like, what the hell? But at that particular point, I think, they had to come down with something.
No, I agree with that. I really thought, and like I said before, I'm okay. I'm okay with it now, more so than I probably was last week. But the 4-game suspension seems at this particular point a bit fair, and I have to give credit to credit is due, and that's to Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, who said basically, they'll accept the punishment, even though it was reluctantly. They did say that they were going to accept it. I'm still trying to understand, though. They could have just said, I don't understand why they could have just said, you know what, we accept the punishment. To say it reluctantly means that, we're accepting it, but we're not really accepting it. It's weird.
Yeah, it seemed like one of those knee-jerk reaction things where you hear something or you see something and then all of a sudden you get like, really pissed, and then, you fly off at the mouth and say some things, and then, in hindsight, after a couple of days, you'd be like, all right, maybe I didn't mean to say that, but I think that the fact that something went down, maybe, the other owners went up to Kraft and was like, yo, you're going to have to stand down this one because you're going to be out on the ledge all on your own. He basically, in my opinion, declared war on, in the NFL and Roger Goodell, the way he was going about things, defending Tom Brady to the end. And, that's our guy. We believe him. And then a couple of days, well, okay, I'm basically going to go with it. So I'm pretty sure someone told him, just take this one to the chin and for the greater good of the Shields. And they always like to say, protecting the brand, protecting the Shield. So I'm pretty sure some of the owners in the owner meeting said, just, stand down and take it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's funny how you were so adamant to defend yourself and your team, and then a couple of days later, you just says, you know what, forget about it. I'm not going to defend. It kind of makes you seem like, it basically is like basically you're going to say no to the bitter end, even though you know that all all of the things lead to you actually doing something wrong. And it's like one of them kids where they you see the writing on the wall with a crayon. You see them holding the crayon, and them kept saying, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it."
Exactly. I think the NFL had took a serious brand hit. It's been going on for years, starting from really last February with the whole Ray Rice incident, and then and Adrian Peterson, all the different domestic abuse cases. I mean, it was like one thing after another, after another, after another, and then right before before Super Bowl, this all comes out. And then it's going on and on. The report comes out, and that Robert Kraft is on the fight to the end. It was just like, yo, it wasn't a good look. You're damaging the multi-billion-dollar company. Someone had to sit down and be like, "Yo, Kraft, all jokes aside, shut the fuck up and just take it."
No, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I mean, like I said, I'll give them respect for the fact that they're standing down. That's as much as I'll give it to them, but at least they're standing down and they're just gonna just push forward. I'm interested to see how the appeal still goes in regards to Tom Brady is concerned, how that's going to affect everything down the road. But at least Robert Kraft is is taking the the good way out, so to speak.
He's taking a good way out, but that also makes me wonder about Tom Brady because he's been relatively quiet about this whole thing going on. And I mean, his image, I mean, his legacy is tainted to a certain degree, not a great deal, but a certain degree. Under the Super Bowl, without any issues, will probably clear all that out. But I mean, he's been labeled a cheater, and he's never really came out and formally defended himself. I don't know whether Robert Kraft said, "Don't worry about it, I got it," but it seems like Robert Kraft, is, we're going to take we're going to take it from the NFL, and then what happens to Tom Brady? He still has the 4-game suspension. Player Association is going to appeal it. Probably going to go down to 2, but still, I mean, is he going to fight the 2? What is he going to do?
Yeah, that's something I would assume that's something that he's only Tom Brady knows what he's going to do at this point. But he definitely did take a hit to his reputation and his legacy. Even though a lot of Pate Nation fans and a lot of sports media's commentators, for example, they may seem different about it, but he has taken a hit. There's no doubt about it. Labeled as the Golden Boy, it's now a little bit tarnished. So, it'd be interesting to see how he reacts to it and if he's going to do anything as far as. It'd be interesting if he'll take the way out and just say, you know what, I'll just take the punishment as well. I'm not going to try and fight it or anything like that. I think that would come off a little bit more better than him still trying to deny something, especially after Kraft is saying that we're willing to accept the punishment. So.
Yeah, I think the last thing the NFL, and the Patriots want this thing to be a long, drawn out saga to go through the courts, going in through, right now you in what rookie OTAs. You don't want this to go into mini camp, preseason games. You don't want this lingering on. I think at a certain point, Tom Brady might just say, for the greater good, just to get it out, make everything quiet. If he gets down to 2 games, which I almost expect it will, I think he'll probably take it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. And it'd be a lot easier for him to just accept it and they could just move on. The more media press it is for them, the worse it'll get at this point.
Exactly, I totally agree.
Yeah, well, speaking of the NFL, I just came down today in regards to they're dismissing the domestic charge for Ray Rice, which I found very interesting. As basically they just basically dismissed all the charges about the domestic abuse that he had with his wife. Your takes on that?
Well, my first time hearing it, so my initial, it was it the fact that she dropped their claims, or was that like the state dropped their claims, or because I think the NFL is basically following lockstep of whatever judgment was brought down from the courts.
Yeah, I think I'm double checking right now as we speak, in regards to it. But for the most part, the Ray Rice set to have case dismissed by judge. So it looks like the judge is dismissing the case for him. It says New Jersey judge dismissed the domestic violence charges against Ray Rice on Thursday after the former Baltimore Ravens running back completed his pretrial intervention program.
Which mean they had gave him an option, you do A, B, and C, and D, and then we'll formally drop the charges. He'll probably still have to go to some counseling and further stuff after that. But
Yeah.
I think this is, in all certainty, paving the way more so for him to, eventually come back and play in the league. Now, what team is going to take him on is anyone's guess, but I think that's just clearing another hurdle for him if he wants to, and if someone to take him, to return active duty in the NFL.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because one of the teams that is interested in him currently right now would be the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, Jerry likes his projects. He already brought in Greg Hardy knowing he's going to be out for darn near 6+ games, and he's out for 10.
Yep, yep. So it looks like right, yeah, they're saying right now that the Cowboys is definitely one of the teams that are interested in signing him. So, hey, more power to him. He did what he was supposed to do as far as from a judge standpoint is concerned. So I I know it's going to be difficult. There's going to be a lot of people opposed to it, which I could definitely understand the reasoning behind it. But, if he did everything that he's supposed to do and the judge is dismissing the case, you can't really be upset at Ray Rice, more so to be upset more to the judge or the prosecution who gave them, this out, this loop, not loophole, but this, what's the word I'm looking for? This ruling for him to get to that. So I know a lot of people are going to be upset, still consider Ray Rice as an abuser, and by all rights, by all rights, I can understand that, but I can't fault him for doing what he was supposed to do at this point. If anything, that's the ruling on the judge. If anybody would be upset about the case being dismissed, it should be the judge. The people should be mad at the judge.
Yeah, he based the ruling based on what happened and gave the 4 stipulations for Ray Rice to complete. He completed them to the judge's satisfaction. The formal charges were dismissed. There's of course whatever team, if a team decides to pick them up, it's going to be the protest of obviously, but my personal opinion, I think he should take care of home. I do agree with the fact that I think that he, at the very least, should be able to at least have the opportunity to try to come back to the NFL, whether someone's going to pick him up or not. But I'm not trying to take any light on domestic, violence, because it's wrong and it's wrong, and what he did was wrong. But he did his time. He do whatever the judge said. So he should be at least given the opportunity to at least try to go back to his gainful employment of what he did.
No, I completely agree at this particular point that you can't, like you said, he did what he was supposed to do, and it's if anyone had made a believer out of me saying that he would be back in is when they had that whole situation with Michael Vick, and even though he spent years in prison, and when he came out, he still got that opportunity. And of course, a team is going to look at, give him the opportunity because, of course, all the teams, what they're trying to do is better improve their team. So like you said, the Cowboys definitely have some people there that makes you wonder. But it's just as interesting to see how not just the fans but how the NFL reacts to this if he makes the team. So.
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys, the soap opera that is, or as Stephen A. Smith would say, an accident waiting to happen, and they usually are.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Um, I mean, that's pretty much it. All I have about the NFL. Uh, I mean, unless you have something else, I don't know if you heard anything about the Eagles camp down there or anything like that.
Not a simple fact that they signed Tim Tebow to a 1 year contract and gave their third string Matt Barkley from USC the boot. I,
Oh,
I, I I'm still scratching my head for some of these moves that Chip Kelly has made. I don't understand that. There's still some rumblings and talks that he might still try to do a trade to go after Colin Kaepernick out of San Francisco, which I would be shocked and not happy from a Giants perspective if he was to come to the division.
I
Um,
didn't I didn't know that they released Matt Barkley.
they did it very quietly, like last week,
Okay. Hmm.
because that means you're going to have four QBs on the roster with him, Sanchez, Matt Barkley, and then Tim Tebow. They're not going to carry four QBs, not paying Tim Tebow the money that they're paying him.
That's true. That's
So
true.
somebody was expendable.
Hmm. That's very interesting. I didn't know. I thought that they was gonna battle out for the at least for the third position. I didn't know they just automatically released them.
Yeah, I mean we'll see. I mean that's the only thing that really came out. I'll temper my comments about the Giants until we get to minicamp for right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Side note. I know the talk up here basically is about they already announced Geno Smith the starter for the Jets. Everything is quiet on the Giants, at least from the Giants, from what I heard. But like you said, we could save that for another date and time. But other than that, pretty much the talk has been about Geno starting, being named the starting quarterback.
That didn't shock me. I mean, of course you want to say that because you don't want to go into training camp with a big cloud of who's going to be starting or who's going to be, a quarterback controversy or a battle. You want to get that completely out the way until something else happens. To me, I would still give Geno the starting nod as well. I mean, you got to see with a new offensive coordinator, how he's going to produce, how it's going to play. So why go into the training camp with that controversy sitting outside? Let him be the starting QB and let it be his job to lose.
No, I completely agree with that. It doesn't make sense at this point, and like you said, it's no reason to have that hanging over you. You already got a set plan in motion. You might as well just let it let it be and just do what you have to do and focus on the offense and the defensive side. They have pretty much other things to worry about than just the quarterback controversy at this time.
Yeah, that's the last thing that they just need to worry about.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Other than that, that's pretty much been it. It's been quiet about football. Basically, majority of the talk has been about Major League Baseball, of course, and basketball with the playoffs going. Um, any surprises? Any shocks as far as the NBA is concerned?
NBA?
Yeah.
Shocks, shocks, shocks. I was shocked how the Clippers laid down to the friggin' Houston Rockets in Game 7.
I, all right, I'm gonna let you go ahead and speak before I say something.
I mean, I thought they were, I kind of thought that they were going to maybe at least win Game 7. They ran out of gas in Game 6, and by the second, but before even the end of the second quarter in Game 7, I figured Houston was going to win that one because the Clippers just looked flat from start. And Dwight Howard, if you get 20 plus points from him, 11 boards and blocks, I mean, usually you're going to win. You're going to win the game. Now he didn't do diddly squat in his first game against the Warriors, but before the injury or not, but that was just surprising. I thought the Clippers would put up a lot. I was hoping the Clippers would make it to the Western Conference Finals. I was just shocked that a Doc Rivers coach team like that just laid, I won't say laid down, but then looked like they just didn't care at a particular point.
Uh, hmm, hmm. I also was kind of shocked in regards to the Clippers. I really wanted to see the Clippers and Warriors in the Western Conference Final. That would have been worth paying to go actually see. The disdain, hatred between these two teams would have been something that I definitely would have loved to see, not just in the Western Conference Finals, but in the finals as well. Um, like you said, I really thought that Game Seven was gonna. I expected Houston to win Game Six, to force a Game Seven, but I really thought the Clippers was gonna be able to do what they needed to do and pull out another victory. Unfortunately, I forgot to note. I forgot that when they won against the Spurs, they did it in their home court. So with that said, whoever had home court, which was Houston, of course, was going to take the win. But I didn't expect them to, like you said, I didn't expect them to play the game that they played. I expected them to be a lot tougher than what they was, especially in Game Seven, especially after you handled the Spurs in Game Seven. So it was just, I thought it was just a piece of cake for them, but the emotion, it was like something they was definitely lacking something, and I don't know because there's rumors about the the split between Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan being a factor. If that is true, I don't know what the problem. I mean, from what I'm gathering, there's talk about everybody not feeling Chris Paul. So I don't know what happened, but basically somebody should have took ownership and said, "Hey, look, we need to do this. We beat the Spurs. Like if that's not motivation enough, but I have to give credit to the Rockets though. They did what they needed to do, but I think it was more ownership on the Clippers to come out away. I think it was more for the Clippers to come away with the victory than more of the Houston Rockets. I'm not saying that the Rockets don't deserve the place in the Western Conference Finals, but to be honest, the Clippers really just gave that up after a 3-1, after they had the series 3-1.
Yeah, everybody thought it was a wrap. I thought it was a wrap. I was just like, all right, they'll either win Game 5 or Game 6. I thought that you're gonna be up 19 in Game 6 and blow it. So I mean, if there is some tension in between, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Jordan. Even I heard a little bit of good Lord, the other kid,
Griffin?
Griffin. Yeah, if there was some tension between those two guys, and it's based on Chris Paul. I mean, that is who Chris Paul is. Chris Paul is a get in your face, tough nosed kind of guy. I mean, harkening back to the old days. I mean, in my opinion, the NBA is too soft and too lightweight these days, man. People just can't take a little bit of tough criticism. I mean, could you imagine some of the dudes back in the day with Michael Jordan? A lot of people didn't like Jordan. Could you imagine someone like Scottie Pippen or Horace Grant or even Rodman just getting pissy because Jordan is in your ass all the time, and he used to be a lot worse in practices, from what they say, than on the court. And people just can't take criticism. They're too soft.
Like, and it's funny because everybody keeps saying that, the way things are today, like if they would have played back in, if the guys that was playing back in the days would play today, like it would be, like today's players could easily handle the guys from like the 90s. And, I don't know about all that. I know the games were a lot tougher back then than where they are right now. There's no more post-up players, of course. There's always now you have jump shooting forwards or 3-point shooting forwards. That's on or it's shooting centers. Jump shot centers. There's really nobody that's doing a low like really banging down low like they used to. So the game has changed. I have to admit the game has changed. It does seem like it's not as physical as it was in the past.
Yeah, I blame that on Stern and his meddling with the way things were, where taking off all the hand checking and raising a box where you can get down and make charge. Well, that's a whole different story. But not to get off topic, but I mean, yeah, I mean, surprisingly, the Rockets, and I am crossing my fingers and hope that the Hawks don't get swept.
I I'm 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 no, I'm just gonna vent. I'm so sick and tired of the Cavs. I'm just gonna be just honest about it, and it's nothing personal. It's just I want the Hawks to win so bad. Like I really want because the whole thing with the East is just so one sided. so much one-sided. If it's the East, all you hear to talk is about the Cavs. I mean, granted, they're a great team. Don't get me wrong. They have they have the best player in the league right now. So I can't knock that they're a great team, but I just get tired of hearing about them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just one of those times when I'd rather hear somebody. I would want, and I'm not saying I'm like a LeBron hater or a Cavs hater, but the media just plays they just grind them to death. Like everywhere I go, whether no matter what media I listen to, is always about LeBron. Like if I'm a player, all jokes aside, like if I'm a player on the Hawks or whoever team that I'm facing, I'm like, look, there are other players here. Like I'm the type of person that's an equal opportunist. So, you know, the Hawks do not get the credit that they deserve. They still not getting the credit that they deserve. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the only thing that you hearing about the Eastern Conference Finals is LeBron. And like the other day, I admit J.R. Smith was a factor because he literally helped them win Game 1. So yes, the talk was about J.R. Smith at the time, but regardless of the fact, they still go back to LeBron. Yeah, and it's like the Hawk. It's like nobody's talking really about the Hawks. Nobody's talking about Jeff Teague. Nobody's talking about Al Horford. Nobody's talking about the collective unit. And that's what I loved about the Spurs when the Spurs played the Heat because you didn't hear about one particular player. You heard about a team effort. And truth be told, it's going to take a team effort to beat the Cavs. Now, hopefully, Carroll is listed day to day, which is great news because if they lost him, they probably would have been swept by the Cavs. But
Yeah.
I want to hear that a team won the actual. We're so built around these superstars and how these superstars, do, and I don't blame the superstars itself. I blame the media because the media portrays it. Everywhere I look is always like I could actually say today about after going on Twitter with ESPN or on watching the ESPN network or ESPN website or Fox News websites and all the sports media, majority of the pictures, images, videos or talk was about LeBron James. And it's one of those. Granted, he is, like I said, he is the best player. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems as though that there's so many other players that the media can talk about. Now, if they do it, if they talk about him one day and talk about somebody else the next day, I'm more acceptable to that than to hear LeBron James 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I agree. It's like LeBron James fatigue, in my opinion, and me personally, if there's some Cleveland Cavalier fans, people from Cleveland, you might not like the next couple of comments I'm saying, but the Cleveland Cavalier fans, these same people a couple of years ago burning his jersey and cursing the heck out of LeBron James. Now it's like, welcome back, like all is forgiven. So it's just like, you would love to see, the Atlanta Hawks win with team basketball because there's not that one marquee, player. You have a lot of, good players that play very well together. And, I wish Jeff Teague would stop taking so many goddamn shots sometimes. It was driving me nuts last night. But, it was they play good basketball, and I would love for them to make it to the to the finals. From a media standpoint, they want to see two teams play against each other. They want to see Golden State Warriors against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And if it wasn't the Golden State Warriors, they would have won the Clippers against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think that particularly fond from a media perspective and advertisement with an Atlanta Hawks in there against whether it be the Houston Rockets or the Golden State. Because of course, if Cleveland wins, which I'm hoping they don't, and they probably will, it's going to be LeBron James against Stephen Curry. It's going to be the former MVP against the current reigning MVP, and the other teams are going to just get left to the wayside. If the Hawks are in there, who are you going to build it up as? Teague? Al Horford? Not really, because no one really knows him outside of really basketball aficionados. I mean, I prefer to see the Hawks in there. I'm hoping they don't get swept. I think they're probably going to lose in six, but please do me wrong.
No, I completely agree with you on that. I would love to see change. To be honest with you, I mean, so many times we talk about seeing the same people over and over again. It gets to a point where it's just, it makes me lose interest sometimes. And it's true. The only way that's going to happen is if the team, whoever is facing, they know they have to beat whoever, what team LeBron is on. And until that happens, until somebody beats him. And what makes it interesting is that I would be more happy that if the Hawks do win because it stops that streak of him having them go into the finals for like the fifth straight time. And it's amazing that the East is so where they are as far as the conference is concerned because truth is, you know, the West is so stacked. Like if you could put them on the Eastern playoff team, somebody would have a better chance of beating LeBron than what the East have. Like it's so amazing that Stars is not saying, you know what, I have a better shot making the playoffs if I go to the East than staying in the West.
Yeah, because I think, LeBron James, I think what he's always had a problem with is teams that play very good team basketball. He had a problem with Boston with the big three and they had good role players. He had a heck of a problem with the Spurs. I mean, if it wasn't for a Ray Allen lucky three that he got in the corner, they would have lost two straight to the Spurs, in my opinion. And they had some problems all year with the Hawks. Now, I think the Cavaliers have gotten a stride. They don't have Kevin Love, but this is the team that's not going to make them pay for it, not having a Kevin Love. So I think they can get by without having Kevin Love in this series to win. However, I don't know, depending on who they play in the finals, if they make it to the finals. But
No, wait, before you get that far, I'm sorry, but I do have to say this. Even though that, LeBron had his score, his points and everything, and JR helped them out, I don't see JR doing that again. I really don't. So my question would be, I'll put it like this: if JR does that again, then I have more confidence to say, you know what, Cavs is going to win. But the problem with JR has always been consistency. And if he doesn't be consistent throughout all this, all of a sudden this was I'm thinking that, JR is going to have one game or maybe two games where he is who he is. And you saw that last night. Now the question is, can he keep it? If he can't keep it, it'd be more difficult for Cavs to continue winning. And unless Kyrie comes back into play and do what he does, it's going to be very difficult. And all the Hawks have to do is just do what they are supposed to do.
yeah, I think Kyrie was the key last night. Why I think he took a great, more bigger role in the game because Kyrie, I think he might have re-injured that knee a little bit, so he wasn't up to 100%. So that forced, and J.R. Smith is a good player. He showed this in the Knicks. I mean, he didn't get the Sixth Man of the Year award for nothing. Now he didn't blow up like he did on a consistent basis because that wasn't his job function like that. But I think he'll probably try to do more to kind of let Kyrie rest a little. But if Kyrie tries, pushes him more, his points and his minutes are definitely going to go down. Now, if he's off, Kyrie can't play, and it's all on LeBron, then I totally agree. I think LeBron all by himself can't beat a well-balanced, well-played team basketball.
Yeah, that I agree with. I definitely agree with that. Real quick though, side note, the All NBA team, and I tweeted this out earlier today. The All NBA teams was just announced, and the reason why the thing that I tweeted about was the fact that there was all three teams was announced, so that's like 15 players, because it was first team, all second team, and all third team. Now, out of the 15 players, three of those players are from the East. Three. And that was LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and who was the other one? I forgot who the other one was. But I think it was. I don't know if it was John Wall or not. I'm not 100% sure. But it was just amazing the fact that 12 of those players were all from the West. Now, if that don't tell you something, I don't know what will, because the fact that all 12 players were from the West, a couple of them was from the same team, and the three that was on the East, two of them was on the same team. It's amazing the shift between the West and the East. I'm just amazed by that.
I think the East has been I think the East has been for a very long time, on the downswing of things. And I mean, even when you think back when the Boston Celtics won their last championship, they had the big three. There wasn't really a whole lot of good teams collectively in the East back then. I mean, it was it was more spread out when you had LeBron in Cleveland, when you had Dwayne Wade in Miami, and then you had Chris Bosh, in Toronto, and then you had Boston, and you had some other teams. But when you started pooling all these people together on one team, you started
Hmm.
drawing talent from these other teams. It made the East very top heavy. So you really only had two, three good teams, and everybody else was very, lukewarm. In the West, talent was spread out all over the place.
I I I'm just still amazed the fact that that's where we are at this point. Um, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, there has to be something where they have to balance this out. That's really what. Oh, it was Pau Gasol from the Bulls. That's who was the third person.
How?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, Pau Gasol from Chicago Bulls. But this it's just amazing where the shift of power is. And to be honest, it's been that way for a while. Um, it Something needs to change. I mean, if I don't know what it is, but something needs to change because I'm pretty sure if we have another year like this where the lower seven um the 7 and 8 seeds from the East have a below record of 500 but still make the playoffs again, I think that's something where people will really take notice about.
Yeah, and I think you're going to start seeing the more you start seeing, a lot of good players, hop on one team to form these, super friend teams to kind of win. You're going to start seeing other people want to play with. A lot of people want to go to Miami and play with, LeBron and D Wade, and then now a lot of people want to go to Cleveland and play with, Cleveland and play with LeBron, and then you have, you know, Chicago was very interesting. I think going into the season, I think the Nets are very interesting. The Hawks want to see how they, what happens in the playoffs. But you have teams that are good. Pacers, just bad string of luck, right before the even season started. So I think I like to see how they look next year. I think they're going to be a little bit more competitive next season than they probably have been overall in the East in the last maybe like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, no, that I agree with. And it's just going to take a matter of time. And you see like a lot of the young, like the teams with the lower records they're getting younger. And I think that's where everything is going right now with more youth than athleticism at this point. Than the use of veteran players. So it'll be interesting to see how 2015 shapes up, especially with the draft being the way it is, and with Minnesota getting the top pick, Lakers coming in second. I still feel bad for the Knicks. Um, I kind of feel bad for them for a lot of reasons. More so, not just that, the fact with JR being in Cleveland with Iman Shumpert and seeing how they progressing. That's all I've been hearing up here. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
I've been hearing the same things up there, and it's like I said, knee-jerk reaction because the Knicks, not only did they, have a bad season, they didn't even get the number one pick. So I mean, it's like, and then you look over and you see, oh my God, you see Amon Shumpert and J.R. Smith, having a 28-point game and basically, sealing the win for LeBron. So it's like you let these guys go, but I mean, you basically gave away Tyshawn Chandler for pennies on a dollar and got nothing back in return for some conditional picks. That doesn't amount to anything. So, I mean, I think you kind of have to wait and see how it is. They got the fourth, which is not a bad place to be at this particular point. I think this draft is probably doesn't have a lot of sexy marquee names, but they have a lot of good players. It almost reminds me sort of like the LeBron, Wade, Carmelo year draft light, where he had like two or three good players at the top, but they had a lot of good players sprinkled
Hmm.
in the middle. So it kind of reminds me of that kind of year. So I think the Knicks would be okay, but it's going to depend on A, who they draft, and B, who they going to get in the offseason. They got a lot of money. Now they might not be willing to come off a lot of cash because they might be thinking they might be having an end run at Durant when he becomes a free agent next year, or even maybe more so, you know, um, Westbrook. However, I think one of those guys are going to stay and somebody's going to bounce.
I agree with you. I just don't see them going to the Knicks. I really don't. I don't see any of those top superstars going to New York. There's no reason to. I mean, other than Carmelo Anthony, they really. I mean, they haven't proven anything as far as they haven't proven anything to attract the actual players to come there. Um, and you have to work well with Carmelo. Whoever goes there as a superstar is probably going to end up being the leader of the group because Melo is not the type of person that will lead. He leads by example. So it'd be interesting to see who would go there, but I don't see no top players. I don't see Westbrook going to New York. I don't see Gasol, who all these big free agent targets that the Knicks are trying to pursue. I just don't see any reason for them to go. Now, if you move down a tier and go to some of the quality players, that may you could convince them. But as of right now, I just don't see why any top superstar would go to New York.
No, there's even been some talk about the Knicks maybe even trying to, entice, Kawhi Leonard, to come off of San Antonio. I don't know if he's going to go, and if he was to sign out, I don't think he's going to go to the Knicks either. I mean, the Knicks have to make it worth someone's while to go, and you know, this is where Phil Jackson is going to really get his paper over the next 2 years. We're going to see if this is really a good pick. You're not going to see a whole lot this year, but I think the next 2 to 3 years is really going to dictate if the Phil Jackson experiment was worth all the money they paying him.
No, I completely agree with that because if he does, I mean, basically, this is really a make or break for him because it sets this tone for what you're going to do in 2016. And if it's amazing because when he first came into the mix, the first thing he did right off the bat was traded away. I think was Raymond Felton trade before Tyson Chandler? I'm
Well,
not
they both
100%.
went to they both went to the same place, so he had to
Yes,
get rid of.
so it was the same trade, yeah. So I mean, everybody was like just happy that they got rid of Raymond Felton and they brought in like they for some reason they got I think Jose Calderon in another trade.
Calderon, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody was like up in arms, like, yo, this is great. We got a point guard that could actually shoot and do all this. And then a year later, now they all like, well, we don't want Calderon no more because he can't do nothing. So it's gonna be hard to please the fans, and I really think that Jackson's gonna have to not listen to the fans, so to speak, but do what's best for the organization and to try to get them to win. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, they took they got the fourth round pick. They'll probably, in my opinion, probably be maybe a borderline eighth seed next year, and then they'll probably end up getting the draft. I think it's going to take at least 2 years before you start really seeing, all of the stuff that he did this past year, if it's going to come to fruition or not.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Even though I'm not a Knicks fan at all. But it is
Uh-huh.
interesting to see. It is interesting to see what they're going to do for this upcoming off season.
Now,
So
however, the Sixers, I told these jokers down here in Philadelphia, I said, if y'all going to get a good pick, because I mean, the top two big men are going to go go to Minnesota, LA, just depending on who goes where. Um, they're probably going to pick that guard out of Ohio, the left-handed kid, who's very nice, which is going to be a perfect fit because you're going to have Noel's back, you're going to have the center that
Embiid.
Embiid back. You need a point guard because you got rid of Michael Carter Williams, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. But
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you because I mean I know I understand. I mean he's very he's an interesting case. That's all I could say. He I mean he had all the tools to be. If he just, I don't think he would. Me personally, I didn't think he played smart. I think he was more of a jump shooter to try. You know, he was. I think he was. I don't know. It was something about him that didn't seem right into that in that system. Um, the person that I really thought that should have kept was KJ McDaniels. Well, I thought Sixers should have kept him. If they would
yeah,
have kept him, they would have been better off where they are because even if you know they did get rid of Michael Carter Williams, you get a point guard, a true point guard. You get KJ, you get McDaniels, you keep him, and you deal. You have, like you said, you have Noels, you have Embiid. That's a great a young nucleus to start. I thought they should have kept KJ McDaniels, and now that they didn't, and he's in Houston, he already played. He's playing for a bigger contract, so they had him for a cheap price.
yeah, and I told the Sixers fans, I was like, if y'all get a third round pick and y'all still sucky in the same position next year, y'all should be banned from ever getting a top 5 pick for the next couple of years. If they get one, they should forfeit it, or if they get anything 1 or 3, forfeit your pick to somebody else.
No, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I mean, it's been what 3 straight years with at least a top 3 pick.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no excuse right now. There's really no excuse. But then again, you see how Boston did with their young core, so it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. I would talk about my Nets, but I think I'm gonna save that for a completely entire video podcast for about the Nets myself. So I won't talk about them this time around. And I know it's late, so again, we could continue talking about this forever, but you know, it's we talk. You know how we usually get together when we talk. So.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
All right, but for everybody else, again, I'd like to thank y'all for watching, guys, talking sports. Thank you to all those that subscribed. To everybody that sent me comments in regards to ways to improve, I really do appreciate that. Again, you can catch Guys Talking Sports on YouTube. Also, I'll be sending out the links to everybody as well. You can check it out you can reach me on Twitter, of course, where my handle is showing right now. I am Al Quarles. Earl, is there any? I'll let you do your plugs if anybody want to, reach out to you.
I mean, you can reach out to me on Facebook. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm JE Ross 7 on Twitter. So holla at your boy if you need to.
All right. And also for all those that like us on YouTube and want to continue just like us, you can subscribe, which is on the lower right hand side. You can't see it right. Well, we can't see it right now, but you will see it there on the post production. It's very small. But again, I sincerely like to thank everybody for checking us out. Again, I'll post everything on my Facebook page as well. I'll tag Earl so that he gets it as well. Other than that, you can catch us, Guys Talking Sports, every weeknight. Not every weeknight. Yeah, every week. No, every Thursday, I should say. Wednesday or Thursday, one of those days. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for checking us out. And until next time, take care, be safe.
One.
One.